The process to officially nominate Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic Party's presidential nominee is now underway. It will go on, we expect, for several days. Today, Vice President Harris will deliver the eulogy for Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who was, of course, a powerful advocate for women and minorities. And it comes as Harris is hitting back against Donald Trump after he questioned her racial identity during that discussion at a Black journalists conference during this hour yesterday.
And it was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better. The American people deserve better.
She's responding to Trump saying she somehow turned black, and he's doubling down today. He posted this picture on Truth Social, writing, "Thank you, Kamala, for the nice picture you sent from many years ago. Your warmth, friendship, and love of your Indian heritage are very much appreciated." Joining us now, Matthew Brown, national race and politics reporter for the Associated Press. Matthew Dowd is chief strategist for the Bush-Cheney 2004 presidential campaign and a senior MSNBC political contributor and analyst. So, Matthew Brown, I guess you've had 24 hours to process the remarks that you heard, the questions and answers you heard yesterday, because you were there as a reporter, but also as a black man who has dealt, I'm sure, your entire life with racial issues. Give us your perspective on what you saw and felt yesterday at the NABJ conference and what you think it means for this campaign.
Absolutely, Chris. So this was a really remarkable series of comments by former President Trump. I think it's very important to note that his comments questioning Harris's identity came within the first 5 minutes of the interview and were actually unsolicited, which indicates in some ways that this had been on his mind. He'd been thinking about it. And I think that that's a very striking fact, just given that over this last week or so, we've been seeing Kamala Harris really come into the fore here. As you said, she's going to be soon officially nominated as the Democrats' nominee for president here. And all of that shows that she's been dominating the news cycle and has been front and center for several weeks at this point. And Trump may have in some ways felt that he was not on his back foot and not part of the narrative. So this was definitely a way for him to grab attention again, which when I talked to other NABJ members here is overwhelmingly what folks were saying, that they weren't necessarily surprised, even though Trump's many comments were definitely shocking in the moment.
Yeah, I think I heard that a lot from folks, Matthew Dowd, that there was nothing really surprising here. And yet somehow, I don't know, maybe because it was compressed into 34 minutes, it was shocking. And then I also want to say that this afternoon, NBC News talked to J.D. Vance about this. They asked him about Trump's racial comments and if he believes that Kamala Harris is black. Here's what J.D. Vance said.
Kamala Harris is a chameleon. She says that she's a prosecutor, but she doesn't enforce the border law. She says that she's tough on crime, but she wants to defund the police. And she says one thing in front of one audience and another thing in front of another audience. I mean, we just saw her in Georgia a couple of days ago, a person who spent a lot of her life in Canada putting on a Southern accent in front of Georgia. Trump's point is that she is a chameleon. She presents a different face depending on the audience she speaks to.
Shocking things, sometimes racist things, Matthew Dowd, as you know. A lot of people, when you ask them about it, it's baked in. Or they'll say, you know, I know Donald Trump is like that, but is this different, do you think, in any way? And what do you think about what we've heard over the last 24 hours?
Well, first, I'm been in politics for 40 years, and I'm not always surprised by levels of hypocrisy. But what J.D. Vance just said reaches a height of hypocrisy. He talks about Vice President Harris in regards to race being a chameleon, like you can somehow change your race just by virtue of what you think about, and then you change your own raceness. But this is a guy who's changed his own name 3 different times. This is a guy who's now on the ticket with Donald Trump, who called Donald Trump Hitler in the course of this and had other disparaging things, and now he's serving Donald Trump on the ticket with him. So that, to me, is just the height of hypocrisy. What I find striking in this And I don't know what's worse, what he said about Vice President Harris, which is awful and one of the most racially divisive things that somebody running for president has said since George Wallace. This really is, Donald Trump really is our version, the 21st century version of George Wallace, and how he talks and how he looks at the world in the course of this. I don't know if it's worse what he said or how he treated the journalists who were on that stage, which, as you know, Chris, he's called journalists and people in the news media enemy of the people. And it's so striking to me on a day where President Biden and Vice President Harris secured journalists from captivity in Russia, held in captivity in Russia. Today, he sits there and treats journalists who are just trying to ask the questions, who are just repeating his own words back to him in such a disrespectful manner. So to me, it's a combination of all those things. And I just don't get what he thinks he gets by this. I guess he feeds his base, which likes some of this to a degree. But I actually think it makes him look like such a weak and petty person.
I wonder what the conversations were, Matthew Brown, that you've had with folks there, members of NABJ, and the comments that I heard from friends, from colleagues, things that I saw, for example, when I was on the campaign trail or the brief period after the Obama White House where I covered the Trump White House, about the way Donald Trump speaks to women reporters, but particularly women of color, and what conversations you're hearing where you are today.
Yes, Chris. So here at the conference, a lot of people have pointed out that all throughout Trump's presidency, the National Association of Black Journalists itself actually called out Trump multiple times for what they saw as derogatory comments against specifically black women journalists. And that had been occurring not just in 2017, but was repeated again in 2018 with an official statement from the association, and then was followed up again in 2020 when he actually targeted Washington correspondent for NBC News, Yamiche Alcindor. So this has been something that he has done multiple times throughout his presidency and as he was first campaigning in 2015. And a lot of people are bringing up that history as well. I should also note that one conversation that I've been hearing from a lot of folks, not just here at the conference, but actually in my reporting all through Georgia and just through the battleground states, is a lot of Indian American and South Asian communities somewhat expressing disbelief at the turn of the conversation here. Essentially that someone like J.D. Vance, who is in a multiracial, multicultural family, would question the idea of being able to, code switch, as we would say, or to live in multiple cultures and to identify and to speak to multiple cultures. That's something that I've especially heard has been shocking and perplexing to a lot of people in the communities to which we're discussing.
So, Matthew Dowd, I only have a minute left, but what does this portend for the next 96 days of this campaign?
Awfulness. I think as Matthew Brown pointed out, I think Donald Trump felt on a back foot because not only was Vice President Harris getting more publicity and more energy than him, J.D. Vance was getting more attention than him. And so I think he's just going to keep ratcheting this up, and it's going to get more and more outrageous. And I think the vice president handled it perfectly yesterday, which she didn't defend herself personally. She didn't wade into his personal attack. She basically stood up and said, this is not who we are as Americans. And this is Donald Trump. And he's trying to divide us again. And we can't let him do it. So smart move by the vice president's part. But I think Donald Trump, it's only going to get worse and worse as he gets more and more desperate.
Yeah, for a campaign that's only been operational for, less than a couple of weeks, it's clear what their strategy is. Matthews, Brown, and Dowd, thank you, gentlemen.